Hello. Good afternoon. I hope everyone's having a good afternoon. I know I always say that, but I do genuinely hope everyone is having a good afternoon. I just got a new t-shirt, and you can see it here. I got it custom made on Amazon. It was only a tenner. It was a bargain, really. So today I'm going to do a little expose on what one of these things is. I've migrated today to Grok instead of using Gemini. Asked what exactly is a hand grenade, how does it work, how many different types are there, what would happen if one went off in your face, and how long would you serve in prison in the UK for possessing or using one against another civilian. It says a hand grenade is a small handheld explosive weapon designed to be thrown at a target, typically used in military or combat scenarios to kill, injure or disorient enemies. Below I'll address each part of your query in detail based on available information and critical analysis. So what is a hand grenade? Hand grenade is a compact explosive device usually thrown by hand, though some are launched from rifles or grenade launchers. It typically consists of an explosive charge, which is filler, high explosives like TNT, RDX or Composition B. A detonator mechanism triggers the explosion, often via a fuse. Internal striker initiates the detonator when activated, arming safety which prevents accidental detonation, for example a safety pin or a clip, and an outer casing which is normally made of metal or plastic designed to fragment, remain intact or release chemicals depending on the type. Grenades are categorised as light weapons by the UN and are used by both military and non-state actors. The term grenade derives from the French word for pomegranate due to early grenades' bulbous shape resembling the fruit. How does a hand grenade work? Most modern hand grenades use a time delay fuse mechanism, though some use impact fuses. Here's a step-by-step explanation of a typical time delay grenade. So the US M67 fragmentation grenade. Preparation: the user holds the grenade pressing the safety lever or spoon against the body to keep the striker in place. The safety pin is pulled, which prevents the lever from moving until release. Throwing: when thrown, the safety lever is released, freeing the spring-loaded striker. This striker hits a percussion cap, igniting a primer. Delay and explosion: the primer ignites a fuse delay element which burns for 3 to 7 seconds, typically 4 seconds for military grenades like the M67. The fuse reaches the detonator which triggers the main explosive charge. The explosion either disperses fragments, that's with a frag grenade, creates a shockwave with a concussion grenade, or releases chemicals, gas or smoke grenades, or ignites flammable material with incendiary grenades. Impact fuses, used in some grenades, detonate upon hitting a surface, but they're less common due to risks of premature detonation or failure on soft ground. Types of hand grenades. Grenades vary very widely in design and purpose. The US military classifies them into 6 main categories, but there are many variants globally. Below the primary types, so frag grenades or fragmentation grenades are designed to break into lethal fragments upon detonation, used against personnel in open or fortified positions. The casing is a serrated metal, so steel or cast iron, to maximise shrapnel. An example, the US M67 with a 15-metre casualty radius. Concussion, offensive grenades rely on a shockwave to kill or incapacitate with minimal fragmentation, used in close quarters or underwater. Casualty radius 2 metres in open areas, but fragments may travel up to 200 metres. Chemical grenades release toxic or irritant agents, things like CS gas for riot control or chlorine or nerve agents in warfare. Always remember when you go to a swimming pool, chlorine was a nerve gas before it was a disinfectant, used for crowd control or chemical warfare, or tear gas grenades used by police. Smoke grenades emit smoke for signalling, concealment or marking. They're non-explosives, legal for civilian use in many countries. Variants of coloured smoke, potassium chlorate based, or white phosphorus, which also has incendiary effects. Incendiary grenades ignite flammable materials to start fires or destroy equipment. Example, white phosphorus grenades which burn at high temperatures and produce smoke. Non-lethal stun grenades produce just a really loud bang, 170 decibels plus, and a bright flash, 7 mega candela, whatever that is, to disorient, used in riot control, hostage rescue or close quarters combat. Example, flashbangs, which can still cause hearing loss or burn if detonated close. Practice and training grenades simulate real grenades for training with minimal or no explosive content. Example, inert grenades or those with small pyrotechnic charges. Specialised grenades. You can get anti-tank grenades, rifle grenades and white phosphorus grenades. There are countless variants globally with no universal standard. For example, the 16th century Korean flying impact under thunder crash bomb was a 10 kilogram cast iron grenade with pellets, while modern grenades weigh 210 to 910 grams, have diameters of about 55 to 65 centimetres. Shapes include ball, oval or can. Effects of a hand grenade explosion in your face. An explosion in close proximity, especially directly in the front of your face, would likely be fatal or cause catastrophic injuries due to the combined effects of the blast, shrapnel and thermal energy. Here's a detailed breakdown based on grenade type and medical insight. So a fragmentation grenade, blast wave. The primary blast wave, blast overpressure, causes severe trauma to hollow organs, lungs, ears, gastrointestinal tract. At point blank range, the shock wave alone could rupture the skull, brain or facial structures, leading to instant death. Shrapnel, high velocity fragments, steel or wire, would penetrate the face, eyes and brain, causing massive tissue destruction, blindness or fatal injury. Fragments travel at thousands of meters per second, shredding soft tissue and bone. Thermal effects, the explosion's heat could cause severe burns to the face, potentially melting skin or igniting hair. Outcome, almost certainly fatal due to brain trauma, massive blood loss or organ rupture. If not immediately fatal, injuries would include disfigurement, permanent blindness and neurological damage. Concussion grenade. Blast wave is a shock wave, is a primary killer, causing internal hemorrhaging, brain trauma or cardiac arrest. At point blank range, a pressure could collapse the skull or rupture blood vessels in the brain. Fragments, minimal but the fuse or casing bits could still cause penetrating injuries to the face or eyes. The outcome likely fatal due to severe concussive trauma. Survivors may suffer traumatic brain injury, ruptured eardrums or facial fractures. Stun grenades, blast and sound. The 170 decibel bang could permanently deafen, rupture eardrums or cause concussive brain injury. The 7 megacandela flash would cause temporary or permanent blindness if detonated in the face. The heat from the pyrotechnic charge could cause severe facial burns, and the outcome less likely to be fatal but could result in permanent hearing loss, blindness or burns. Close proximity increased risk of lethal concussive effects. White phosphorus grenade. Burns. Phosphorus ignites on contact with air, burning at about 20 to 2,700 degrees Celsius. It would cause deep chemical burns to the face, potentially burning through bone. Phosphorus sticks to the skin, making it nearly impossible to extinguish. Smoke inhalation. Inhaling phosphorus smoke, phosphorus pentoxide, causes respiratory burns or poisoning. Outcome likely fatal due to burn, shock or respiratory failure. Survivors face extreme disfigurement and prolonged agony. Medical perspective. Blast injuries are complex, involving primary blast wave, secondary shrapnel, tertiary impact from being thrown, and quaternary burns, chemical exposure mechanisms. A grenade detonating in the face would combine all four, with primary and secondary effects being most lethal. Even with immediate medical intervention, survival is unlikely and the quality of life for survivors would be severely compromised. UK law. Possession and use of a hand grenade against a civilian. In the UK, hand grenades are classified as prohibited weapons and explosive substances, tightly regulated under multiple laws. Below I outline the legal consequences for possession and use against a civilian based on UK legislation and case law. So if you've got a hand grenade, the relevant legislation says that under the Explosives and Substances Act 1883, Section 4, possessing an explosive substance under circumstances giving it rise to reasonable suspicion that it is not for lawful purpose is an offence. A lawful object, e.g. personal experimentation, can be a defence, but the defendant must prove it on the balance of probabilities. If the prosecution shows the object includes an unlawful element, like a recklessness about harm, the defence fails. Firearms Act 1968, Section 1C prohibits possession of any grenade designed to explode without authority. Grenades are treated as prohibited ammunition or destructive devices. Explosive Regulations 2014 regulates storage and handling of explosives. Unauthorised possession violates these rules. Penalties. Under the ESA 1883, possession carries a maximum penalty of only 7 years imprisonment or an unlimited fine or both. If deemed terrorist related, penalties can escalate to life imprisonment. Under the Firearms Act 1968, possession without authority is punishable by up to 7 years in prison, an unlimited fine or both. Prosecutions under the ESA require the Attorney General's consent. Factors considered: risk of harm, proximity to people or property, storage conditions, and whether the grenade was inert or live. Intent. Courts examine whether the defendant intended illegal use. Without intent to cause harm, reckless possession can lead to conviction. Expert evidence, explosive ordnance disposal personnel provide testimony on the grenade's nature and potential for harm. Example case, in the R versus Copeland 2020 UK SC 8, the UK Supreme Court clarified that personal experimentation could be a lawful object, but if the defendant's actions posed a reckless risk of harm, the defence would fail. Use against a civilian. Relevant legislation. Explosives and Substances Act 1883, Section 2, causing an explosion likely to endanger life or cause serious injury to property carries a maximum penalty of life imprisonment. So 7 years, but then using it, you go inside for life. So that's Section 3, attempting to cause an explosion or possessing explosives with intent to endanger life or property also carries life imprisonment. Offences against the Person Act 1861, if the grenade causes injury, additional charges like grievous bodily harm with intent, Section 18, maximum 7 years, or attempted murder, maximum life imprisonment may apply. Criminal Damage Act 1971, if property is damaged, charges for arson or criminal damage with intent to endanger life, maximum life imprisonment for criminal damage with intent to endanger life. Didn't know about that, could be added. Terrorism Act 2000. If the act is deemed terrorist-related, penalties can include life imprisonment and additional restrictions. Penalties. Using a grenade against a civilian would likely be prosecuted under ESA 1883, Section 2 or 3, with a maximum of a life imprisonment. Courts view such acts as exceptionally serious due to the potential for mass casualties. Additional charges for GBH, attempted murder, could result in consecutive sentences, significantly increasing prison time. Aggravating factors. Targeting a civilian, causing injury or death, or acting with premeditation could lead to harsher sentences. Mitigating factors. Lack of intent to kill, mental health issues, or cooperation with authorities might reduce the sentence, but life imprisonment remains likely for causing an explosion. Sentencing guidelines. The Crown Code for prosecutors emphasises public interest in prosecuting explosives offensive. Courts prioritise deterrence and public safety. For attempted murder or GBH with a grenade, sentencing starts at 15 to 20 years for attempted murder or 4 to 7 years for GBH, with upward adjustments for use of an explosive. Practical example, if a civilian throws a live grenade at another person causing injury, they could face life and side. Under ESA Section 2 plus additional sentences for GBH or attempted murder. Even if no one is injured, the intent to endanger life under Section 3 carries the same maximum penalty. Defences. Lawful authority. Possession by military or law enforcement with proper authorisation. Lack of knowledge. Proving the defendant didn't know the item was a grenade, unlikely to succeed if clearly a military device. Illegal search. Evidence obtained unlawfully may be excluded, though this rarely negates guilt in clear cases. Lawful object. Under ESA, proving a non-criminal purpose, either historical collection or of inert grenades, but live grenades are still hard to justify. Civilian context. The UK law makes no distinction between military and civilian targets for explosives offences, focuses on act and intent. Using a grenade against a civilian would be treated as a grave crime, likely prosecuted as terrorism or attempted murder if intent to kill is proven. Smoke grenades. Unlike explosive grenades, smoke grenades are legal for civilian use in the UK for airsoft or signalling, but using them to cause panic in public could lead to public disorder charges under the Public Order Act of 1986. Critical notes and consideration. Availability. Hand grenades are strictly controlled in the UK, accessible only to military and licensed entities. Illegal possession typically involves black market acquisition or theft, increasing scrutiny or prosecutions. Terrorism context. Post-2000, the UK courts are hypersensitive to explosives cases, often assuming terrorist intent unless proven otherwise. This elevates penalties. Inert grenades. Possessing an inert deactivated grenade may still lead to charges if it resembles a live device, as courts prioritise public safety. Data on use. Grenade attacks are rare in the UK, but often linked to organised crime or terrorism. Globally, non-state factors, gangs, insurgents account for about 27% of grenade attacks between 2011 and 2020, with unknown perpetrators in 68.2 of the cases. Summary. Definition. Hand grenade is a throwable explosive weapon with a fuse used to kill, injure or disorientate via fragments, shockwaves, chemicals or fire. Mechanism. A safety pin is pulled, trigger releases, lever releases, and a fuse delays the explosion, 3.7 seconds, detonating the charge. There's frag grenades, concussion grenades, chemical, smoke, incendiary, stun, practice, and specialised, for example, anti-tank. Variants are numerous and they weigh anything from 200 grams up to 910 grams. Explosion in the face likely to be fatal due to the blast, shrapnel, or burns. Survivors face disfigurement, blindness, or permanent disability. possession up to 7 years under ESA 1883 of Firearms Act 1986, and the use against a civilian up to life imprisonment under ESA 1883, plus additional sentences for GBH, attempted murder, or terrorism related charges. If you face charges or need specific legal advice, which I don't, conduct a criminal UK defence lawyer as penalties depend on, etc., etc. Yeah, long time ago, somebody tried to blow me up with a hand grenade. It was really annoying, and I got really scared about it, and I had to just live in a house with a hand grenade in the house for ages. And because if I lifted it up, it would have been like the trigger would have gone and it would have gone bang. And then loads of people took the piss about it, and I wasn't the only victim, but yeah, that's as much as Grok can tell you about hand grenades. Still reading my book, The Invisible Doctrine. I've only got as far as page 64, which kind of shows how my attention span is rocking. I took my first Dipixol tablet today. That made me fall asleep for a couple of hours, and I had a late lunch, jacket potato with cheese and beans, and I'm going to go and do a session with the psychotherapist who's just knocked on my door and see what he's up to. But stay away from hand grenades, folks, and don't get blown up anywhere in the world, whether that's in Buckfastleigh or Gaza or just whatever you do, don't get blown up. It sucks.